Welcome to the Exit Rich podcast, where the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing companies, Seiler Tucker, is dedicated to helping you find the path to retire rich and move on to your next adventure by exiting your business for the desired dream price you deserve. Get ready to exit rich with your host, Seiler Tucker.
I'm so excited to have another episode with a very special guest, Tomo Delaney. He was on the Shark Tank. What episode was that?
It was on air last May, so May 2023.
May 2023. Tomo, you're not going to have any idea about Tomo's background when you hear about what he's doing today, because the two are so opposite from each other. But Tomo spent 20 years working in the fashion industry as a producer, photographer, and magazine editor. In fact, you guys, he even worked for Vogue. Now, Vogue is every woman's and some men's favorite magazine of all time, favorite fashion magazine. So I'm not going to really go too much into Tomo's bio because you're going to hear it right here on the Shark Tank. Now, tell me, Tomo, how much anxiety do you have watching this?
Probably way more than I should have. I get anxiety watching Shark Tank regardless of whether I'm on it or not. I feel so much for the entrepreneurs, and I know how much is at stake for all of them. And it really stresses me out to watch it.
All right, well, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, but the best way to tell your story is to bring up your episode, and that's what we're going to do right now.
I'll survive.
You'll survive. Okay, cool. All right, so here we go. Let's get ready.
Next into the tank is a company that encourages kids to play with their food. No. Shut.
All right, I love that. No. Let me tell you why I love that. It's because if you ever go on Shark Tank, what do you have to have? What do you think you have to have, Tomo?
Balls.
Okay, you have to have balls, y'all. You got to have balls, y'all. But you got to have a great one-liner. You got to have something that grabs their attention. Because, think about it. You got 3 to 5 seconds to get their attention. So if you just walk in a little boring, without the personality, without the excitement, without selling the sizzle, and having that great line, then you're going to lose them. So I think you were I don't know why you have anxiety, Tomo. You've done so great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And so I think it was excellent because why is no so good? Well, number one, we hear it every day, right?
Yeah.
And it captures their attention. So I think that was well done. So if you're going on Shark Tank, remember, have that one-liner that's going to grab their attention.
My name is Tomo. I'm a stay-at-home dad to 2 very, very picky eaters, and I cannot tell you the number of times I've heard the word no. It's the one superpower that kiddos can wield over their parents from a really young age, and the place they use it most is the dinner table. They'll push it, pull it, slide it, hide it. Kids will do anything to avoid eating the food on the plate in front of them. So sharks, let's turn those no's into yeses with Noshi. Edible organic food paint and condiments that kids can use to turn any mealtime into an art class. Write your name on your breakfast, a smiley face on a cheeseburger, or just go wild and spray abstract art over whatever's in front of you. The options are limitless, just like a child's imagination. Use flavors like strawberry, peach, or mango for fruity fun, or our kid-approved condiments like SketchUp, crayonnaise, mustards, and more. Noshi contains no preservatives, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, just good, clean, organic fun. Sharks, get imaginative with me here for a second. I'm asking for 250,000 of these in exchange for 17% of Noshi.
All right, I love that. And the reason I love that is because it's one thing to use the one-liners, right, to grab their attention, but your presentation. And they always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So the food came out so great. Just the entire presentation came out well. How many times did you have to practice that?
So many times. I mean, I had a weekly call with my producers at Shark Tank, and it was an hour-long call every week, and we spent the majority of that hour rehearsing my pitch over and over and over again. it was so important that I got it right, for me more than them, I think, but it was important for them as well. It is the be all and end all. If you mess the pitch up, that's the whole segment collapses, because everything, all your information comes through from the pitch, and the whole segment rests on how well you've presented your company to the sharks. And so it was really, 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 really important that I got it right. My children still tease me now, because they, every now and again, they'll walk into the room and go, no, 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 because I said it so many times over the course of the 3 months running up to us taping that episode, that they can't help but laugh whenever they watch the segments again, or whenever Food Paint or Shark Tank is mentioned. They love making me cringe.
They love making you rich? Is that what you said?
They love making me cringe with embarrassment.
Oh, cringe. I thought you said rich.
Yeah. Well, maybe that one day, hopefully.
Yeah, because you pass it on to them. But I love so many things about this episode. And yeah, you're right. No, 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 no. It's so catchy. And that's why it was such a great one-liner. There was other things that you said that I really liked too, because you said kids always say no. They push it, they slide it, they hide it. That's so true. And then I also liked where you said, kids want to play with it. We always tell them, don't play with you say play with your food. Play with your food. That's how they can become more interested. But how many times us parents say, don't play with your food. Don't play with your food. Eat your food off the plate. Don't play with your food. And now you're telling parents to say, play with your food. Play with your food, because it encourages them to eat more, right?
Yeah, I mean, why are we saying don't play with your food? I mean, the reason children have meltdowns at mealtimes is not because they don't like broccoli. It's because they suddenly feel powerless. You're telling them to stop playing over there and come and sit here and do as I say and eat what I tell you to eat and do it this way, and you can't get down until you finish. Everything about mealtimes is anathema to a child. They just don't. Why on earth would they want to have anything to do with a mealtime? They often have meltdowns, even if it's their favorite food in the whole world. If they're doing something they really don't want to stop doing, and even if you've cooked them their favorite meal of all time, they will still have a tantrum, because the whole point of the tantrum is to remind you that they have this power over you, and they can cause this huge problem, sometimes 3 times a day if they want to, because that's the only power they can feel, or that they feel they can wield over you. So my thinking was, why are we fighting them? Why on earth are we fighting them? All the research says it's a power thing. So why don't we just give them back some power? And when I first started thinking about Noshi, and I did the research and I read the research, and it said all of this, my assumption was that if I went to the local grocery store, I would find countless products that were designed for children to use at the meal table, because that was the cure for the picky eating. And so I went to the grocery store, all of the grocery stores in my neighborhood, and there wasn't, and still isn't, nearly 10 years later, there still aren't any products apart from ours designed for children to take ownership of. Yeah, and if you look at our branding, it's designed to appeal to children. Children see our products and they can't wait to get their hands on them. They can see it's been designed for them, and so they love using our products.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to retrain the parents, right?
Yeah, I
even tell my daughter, stop playing with your food, eat your food, stop playing with your food.
The reason I applied to go on Shark Tank was because I knew that children understood our products and couldn't wait to get their hands on them. Every time I showed our products to a child, to children, they, like I say, they knew that this was for them and they couldn't wait to get their hands on it. It was the parents that needed an extra layer of explanation. And so I spent a long time half jokingly saying, in the absence of me having a multi-million-dollar marketing budget, the other potential solution to getting the message across to parents is I need some kind of national platform to tell them what is that national platform. And then I suddenly realized that I had some communication with Shark Tank years before, and I still had some email addresses at Shark Tank. And so I just dropped them a line, little expecting them to respond. And they actually responded about 20 minutes later and said, this is a great idea. Can we talk? And we spoke the next day, and the whole process took off from there.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I also see this as a good product in restaurants. I do think it's a great product in restaurants, because you see kids having meltdowns when you're at the dining table and everybody else around them is like, shut up your kid. Get your kid to behave. And so I do think it's a good product you should bring to the restaurants with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the ketchup that we're launching this month, especially, everyone loves ketchup. So I think it's a slam dunk. I mean, in restaurants, aeroplanes is the other time where kids have meltdowns, right? On aeroplanes.
Yes, airplanes, restaurants,
Yeah,
absolutely. The home dining table,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
All right, let's watch some more here.
Sharks, I'm working at a distinct disadvantage here because none of you is 6 years old. If you were, I'd already have a deal. That's how much kids love this stuff. But for now, I'm asking you all to get in touch with your inner child and play with Noshi. And after that, let's play with some numbers. Please, play with your food.
Very well. Why not?
So you've got a box of SketchUp, a box of Peppa Pig food paint, and a box of Crayola food paint.
This is branded
Cute.
Crayola.
Yeah.
So you must have a deal with
Yeah,
it.
we've got license deals with Peppa Pig, Crayola, Very Hungry Caterpillar, and Dan.
Okay, that's great to have these license deals with some of the biggest brands out there. Was that difficult to get?
Licensing had never crossed my mind at all as a way of approaching this until I had breakfast with somebody in New York who was married to the head of licensing at an extremely well-known children's television program. And he said, he said, I want to take this home to show my wife because I think she'd be interested in this to discuss a potential licensing deal. And when he mentioned who she worked for, I got incredibly excited. And I was like, why haven't I thought about licensing? Why? That's a really, really good idea. Because again, it was all about validating the product and reassuring parents and children that this was a legitimate product that they should be paying attention to. And he took some home and she contacted me a while later and said, we love this. This is amazing. Come in and let's talk about how we make it work. It fell apart at the very last minute because they have a licensing deal with another kids food brand, and that kids food brand heard about the fact that they were talking to me and they vetoed any deal with me, which was sort of devastating at the time. But I then I spoke to my packaging designer and she said, the one you should talk to really is Peppa Pig because it's a truly global brand. And so I spoke to Peppa Pig and that deal fell into place quite quickly, but it was around the time that COVID was sort of rolling into New York. So we sort of got the deal done under the wire just as COVID shut everything down. I remember dropping off boxes of product to the Peppa Pig licensing company down the block from my apartment and the streets being empty because the COVID lockdown had already started.
That's incredible. And yeah, I mean, you get these. How did you get Crayola?
I think if I remember rightly, they saw the product somewhere and it just, or there was an intermediary who suggested it would be a really good fit. And of course it was a really good fit. But of course, I have to also, the big caveat here is that we're not doing any of those products anymore. There was some major pivoting going on last summer.
So you're not doing Crayola anymore?
No, it's all come to we're not doing food paint anymore because it was a very, very expensive product to make. It was very complicated to make.
Okay. I kind of agree with Barbara. So I do think they're very small, and trying to get a brother and sister or sisters or brothers to split, good luck. They don't even share toys. So I do kind of agree with that. And I did agree that the margins are very small. I'm sure, and we're going to talk about after the tank, but I'm sure you found a way to increase those margins. Now let me see what the ketchup looks like. Do you have the ketchup now that's about to be released? There we go.
Basically,
there we go. Now that's a real size ketchup.
Yeah,
I can see myself buying.
You paused the video at exactly the right point because those two pieces of information were key in the decision-making process that happened last summer, which was Cuban pointing out that the margins weren't good enough and that Barbara pointing out that the tubes were small, because we then got emails from parents who had bought the smaller tubes and they said, my kids love this stuff, but for the amount you're selling us, it's really, really expensive. And it's a tough sell to me as a parent. If you put ketchup in much bigger tubes, I would buy that over and over again because my kids love your approach. And Cuban saying the margins aren't good enough, that was in large part because with food paint and the small tube ketchup, there were 4 layers of packaging. There was a tube, a cell unit carton, a shelving caddy, and a master shipper. Whereas with this, there's just the tube and the master shipper. So you kill 2 layers of packaging and the margins subsequently have gone way up.
So what's the margins now? How much does it cost you to make it versus sell it?
The margin for a single tube on Amazon is going to be 39%.
Okay.
And on Amazon, that's good.
Are you just selling on Amazon?
We're launching the ketchup only on Amazon only, but we're also pursuing retail partners fairly aggressively from next month onwards. As soon as we've
What about the ketchup going into Walmart? Because the ketchup was in Walmart.
Yeah. The partnership with Walmart has paused again on the advice of Cuban and his team. I loved working with Walmart. I really, really love everybody that I worked with at Walmart. I'm hoping that we can sort of revive the partnership when it makes more sense to do so.
But I do like the size of it. It looks like to me like a toothpaste, right? Like a
Yeah.
bottle of toothpaste, maybe a little bit bigger than toothpaste.
But the whole reasoning behind this size is that it's still something that a child, even as young as 2 years old, can pick this up with one hand.
Yeah.
I did a lot of photography, PR photography over the weekend with a bunch of different kids that I was introduced to over the course of the last week, aged between 2 and 12, and every single one of them loved the product. Couldn't wait to get their hands on it.
Is that your demographic, age 2 to 12?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Okay.
They all, as soon as they saw it, they couldn't wait to get their hands on it, and it was really brilliant to see that even the little ones were able to do this with one hand.
Yeah. Cool. It's a much better size.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because I agree with Barbara. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so small. And, you know, you need one per meal.
The thinking behind those smaller tubes was that we wanted them to feel like crayons, basically. We wanted kids to be able to hold them like crayons, but the margins didn't make sense. You know, to pay for a tube that cost that much and to only be able to put that much product inside it and then have it inside another 3 layers of packaging as well. Cuban was right.
Yeah, and when parents can go buy a big bottle of ketchup, I mean, I know it doesn't serve the same purpose. But when they buy a big bottle of ketchup versus a little tube, it's very hard for parents, especially, well, even parents, I was going to say, especially for the struggling parents, but even ones that are not struggling, it's a hard choice to make.
So we were selling them 3.5 ounces of ketchup for the same price that, other brands were selling them over 12, 15, 20 ounces.
Yeah, agreed. Right?
Okay, you must have sales. Last year it was $117,000.
What do you think this year will be?
This year, so far, we've sold just under 80,000. I think it's probably going to end up being 200,000 by the end of the year.
Why so small? How many stores do you have?
We're in 370 Walmart stores.
How much are you selling online?
We haven't sold any online this year because I've got a situation at home. My wife has got long COVID and she's been in bed for 3 years.
3 years?
No. So since then,
This is actually incredible. I wasn't planning to stop here, but this is incredible because your wife had long COVID and you yourself, my friend, has COVID right now.
Today I have COVID, yeah. For the first time.
The first time you've ever had COVID.
Yep.
Coincidental?
Who knows? Spooky. I don't feel too bad. I don't feel too bad right now. Touch wood.
Yeah. If he coughs or if he sneezes, you know why.
In bringing up my 2 children, almost as a single parent and looking after
She's
her.
a long hauler in COVID?
Yeah. I mean, she had a really successful career and I don't think she's ever going to work again. So that makes it incumbent on me to make this a success.
Where are you based?
In New York. At the end of last year, my wife and I sat down and for the first time we discussed the fact that she probably wouldn't ever work again. So we agreed that she would move back to England and be cared for by her parents, which is where she's been for the last 9 months.
Oh, wow. That must be horrible.
Terrible. I mean, it's the kids especially, my priority as a human being, as a parent, is to keep them as happy and healthy as possible.
So that's incredible. And there's an update there. You want to tell us the update real quick?
Yeah, my wife researched how to make herself better from long COVID and she succeeded in doing so. So it was all about neural retraining. With her version of COVID, especially, I can't obviously speak for other long COVID patients, but with her, she discovered a method called neural retraining because the thinking is that in a lot of long COVID cases, your brain has tricked your body into thinking that you're sick. And so if you can retrain your brain to start telling your body that you're not sick, you will become less sick. And so she embarked on this program and was very successful. It worked for her. And so by last January 2023, she was back from England and back living with us, which was obviously brilliant, especially for the children. And then at the end of last January, she published a Substack she felt confident enough to announce her potential return to work. And so she published a Substack and publicized it on LinkedIn to her work network, saying if anybody has any consultancy work or freelance gigs, I feel able to start work again. The next day, she got sick again, but not with COVID this time. She got sick with a virus called endocarditis, which, to cut a long story short, ultimately ended 10 days later with her having emergency life-saving open heart surgery because she had had a stroke in the interim. And if she hadn't had surgery on the day that she'd had it, she would be dead now.
Jeez. And you don't know if that could be a result of long COVID, right? We don't know that.
Our thinking is that her immune system was probably compromised by the COVID, and that probably exacerbated the endocarditis. I mean, it's generally curable with antibiotics, and the antibiotics just didn't work with her. So she had to have surgery suddenly. But she's now in full health and back to work, which is amazing.
What an incredible story. Forget Shark Tank. That's
Yeah,
an incredible story in itself. I mean, now you got your wife back and the kids got mommy back.
yeah, it's
And
been a
that's
roller
incredible
coaster.
story. Yeah, say that program one more time, because anybody listening to this, if you are suffering or know somebody that's suffering from long COVID, say that one more time.
She discovered a method called neural retraining.
Neural retraining. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of the program she used. I can't. My mind's gone blank. But there was a specific online program that she followed that really worked for her.
That's amazing. Yeah, if you can let me know, we'll include that in the show notes.
What were you doing before this happened?
I grew up in the English countryside, and when I was 13, I started reading my mum's Vogue magazine, and I thought, I want to work there. So I left home when I was 16, and 3 years later, I was working at Vogue magazine.
Wow.
So I was a producer, I was a product photographer working for Tom Ford, Donna Karan. But then when our son was born in 2010, I thought I'm starting to grow out of this industry. My wife at the time was the CEO of a marketing company in New York and was making really good money. So we decided that I would become the stay-at-home parent. Mm-hmm. At which point I discovered that both of my kids were extremely key eaters.
That's another incredible story, because you would have never been on this journey if you didn't become tired of, the industry you were in and decide to be a stay-at-home daddy. You would have never walked on this journey. I always say it's these things that happen in our life where we always should ask ourselves, why is this happening for me and not to me? And so that's an incredible journey in itself.
When the book and the movie of my Noshi career are released and people read them and see the movie, they will not believe their eyes or their ears. It has been the most insane journey of my life.
So do you have a book and a movie coming out?
No, but once I've sold the company for $300 million, they'll want to write a book and they'll want to make a movie, and it will be the wildest story you've ever read.
And who's selling your business for $300 million?
You.
The exit rich queen. Good answer. I love that.
To a point where we were happy with them. And we launched in 2017. We went straight into about 80 Albertsons, 110 Safeways, and every branch of Jewel Osco. And I think we probably sold about $20,000 worth that year.
Because
Out of all those stores?
See it?
Yeah, it's because
People don't know what it is.
Because it's a unique product. People didn't know what it was. I had designed the packaging, thinking I was a creative genius.
Can we go to 20?
So, my God, you were in how many stores altogether? Like 400?
About 400, yeah.
400 stores with 20,000 sales. Why is that?
Because as I was explaining to the Sharks, I designed the packaging and it looked too much like a paint set. And it was a unique product that nobody had seen before. It was often placed on the very top shelf where people couldn't see it. I had no industry experience, so I didn't understand the importance of a marketing budget. A number of reasons. When we went into Walmart, the one thing they wanted me to change was the packaging design. And I was eternally grateful to them for suggesting that, because it was the right thing to say and it made a huge difference.
So I love how you're saying, look, I didn't know anything about the industry. It was my fault. I should have known better, but you should have known better because it wasn't your expertise. And that's what I always say. Stick with your core competencies, hire people smarter than you, hire the genius at packaging.
Yep.
And even if you can't afford it, there's always, where there's a will, there's always a way. And then if you can't afford the top of the top, get the best person you can get, hire them, because it'll save you a tremendous amount of money,
Yep.
time, and energy. And
Yep.
you would have probably been so much further ahead if you would have done that, right?
But I thought I was the world's best packaging designer because my background had been creative. And so I just thought, I can do this. And then I designed it and I thought, yeah, that looks amazing. But of course, I had no second opinion because I was a sole founder. I only had myself to bounce ideas off. That's why it's very, very often hugely helpful to do something like this with at least one business partner. And I
Yeah,
didn't.
so a big lesson here, a big lesson is if you are starting something yourself, like Tomo did, get those outside experts to see what you don't see, and then hire the people that you think are your strengths, but after you talk to an advisor, you talk to an expert, they're going to say, no, that's not your strength. It was your strength in Vogue.
Yeah.
It was your strength in that industry, but not necessarily your strength in kids
Yeah.
and what parents buy. So as an entrepreneur, you always want to don't seek opinions because everybody has one. You want to seek expert advice.
Yeah.
And one thing you did really well, I want to say this too, one thing you did really well is getting those licensing deals. You might not be using them now, but that's probably one thing that helped you get on a Shark Tank. And it was a good thing at the time. And everybody going on a Shark Tank wants to have some type of proprietary assets, rather that's copyrights, trademarks, patents, and licensing agreements with some of the biggest companies out there.
Yeah, interestingly, about literally a week before Walmart asked me to redesign the packaging, I had started working with an advisor, a lovely guy called Dan, who I had met through a fashion industry contact in London. He had been one of the brilliant minds behind a smoothie brand in the UK called Innocent Smoothies, which subsequently sold to Coca-Cola for $250 million. Dan had done all of their branding and he'd done all of their copywriting. When Walmart said to me, we'd love you to redesign the packaging, I immediately went back to Dan and I said, help, do you know any brilliant packaging designers? And he put me in touch with this amazing woman, Kirsty, who had done all of the Innocent packaging design. And she has designed all of my packaging from that day through to today. So she designed this.
That's amazing. So entrepreneurs, always say, we have skill sets. You need to take stock and figure out what is your superpower.
Yeah.
What's your core competency and in what aspect?
Yeah.
And because you were brilliant, like I said, at Vogue and everything else, but not necessarily in this kids category or mom category, because you didn't really specialize in that. And so everybody needs to figure out their superpowers, focus on your strengths and hire your weaknesses, and try to do it from the beginning. Now, here's the bottom line. You fell forward, not backwards. You're still in business and you're growing your company. So you still did it the right way, but I always encourage people to try to do it sooner than that, at the beginning, if you can.
Yeah.
2018, I just want to see the trajectory.
2018, 2019, 2020, they were all the same because the packaging was wrong.
Did you stay in in those retailers?
No, we came out of those Safeway and Albertson stores in 2018. In early 2019, I was at Expo West, and on the last day of the show, this young guy came out of the crowd, and he handed me a business card, and I turned it around, and it said Walmart on it. It was that easy. I've got these 4 amazing license deals.
You've been very fortunate because you met the right person for licensing. You go to this trade show, and the guy is with Walmart. Now, here's the big difference between you and a lot of entrepreneurs. There's opportunities in front of us every single day. There's opportunities.
Absolutely.
But most people will never take action.
Nope.
And you can have opportunities all day long right in front of your face, but unless you recognize it, pay attention to it, and take massive, massive, massive action, you'll never realize those opportunities.
Yeah.
So you've been fortunate, but you acted upon it.
Yeah. I would also like to think that the guy from Walmart stopped and paid attention, because it was, and I still believe I still believe in food paint 100%. I think it's a brilliant idea. I just didn't have the resources or the budget to do it justice. I hope one day we can revive it somehow and make sure that it is done properly.
Well, I can't wait to find out what you're doing now. And we're going to save that for the end after the tank special.
Walmart has stuck with us for 3 years.
How does Walmart feel about how you're selling?
We heard last week that Walmart are going to put SketchUp into 1,500 stores next year.
But are they selling through currently?
Yeah, we sell, the last 3 production runs are the first 3 ever that we've sold through, and we sold through all 3 in a row.
I'm listening to the story, and I would say you're a remarkable man given what you've been through. What's bothering me is a lack of sales. Since 2017, it's been relatively flat. Then I have to consider that you're a one-man show on this thing.
That's why I want you guys.
No, I get it, but I don't need a job. I'm an investor. You may find that one of these other sharks wants to take this journey with you, but it's not me. I'm out.
Okay, I'm sad to hear that, but thank you, Kevin.
Okay, so it's true that investors don't want a job. And so many entrepreneurs make mistakes going to investors and thinking that they're going to work in the business. And investors are not going to do that. They already have enough jobs. So I just want to make that point. Go ahead, Tomo.
No, I mean, I think he was right. I think you're right. It was. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say on that point. I think.
Well, I was just going to add to that the number one reason that buyers back out of buying a business is because that business is so dependent upon the owner.
Yeah.
You take that owner out of the business, and guess what? The owner doesn't have a business. The owner has a qualified job that they go to work at every day versus a business that works for them.
Yeah.
So you have to look at it both ways. Investors don't want a job. Buyers don't want a job. So that's why you really have to work on building a sustainable, scalable business. And I think that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that this doesn't belong in a food aisle. I think it needs to be a gift item. I don't see it as a competitive food item and appearing next to the ketchup in a food aisle, because I don't have confidence in the product, where it's positioned and how you sell it. I'm not.
Okay, that's a shame.
Tomo, I think it's a clever idea. There's a lot of things you did right, but there's not enough here for me today to give you an offer.
Okay.
And so I wish you good luck.
Thank you. That's a shame, but thank you very much.
I think that at $6, I think.
So let's just pause there real quick. So 2 sharks are out. And
Three by that point. It was Kevin and Barbara and Laurie.
That's right. 3 sharks are out. And I kind of agree with Barbara when it was small. Now we're going to hear after the tank, because I can't wait to get to after the tank. We're almost there, y'all. But when it's that small, I can't see it positioned by the ketchup either. This is a product I see positioned like in the cereal section where kids pay attention, or the waffle section, or whipped cream section, or sections like that. I had a hard time with positioning too, to put a small little product next to a big bottle of ketchup. However, I know this has all been revamped, right? And we're going to talk about it in just a minute.
Yeah.
Anything to add here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been revamped, not in no small part thanks to the feedback I got from the sharks, I suppose.
Yeah, so gosh, and that's another thing we want to talk about when we talk about after the tank is where would you have been if you didn't, where would you have ended up if you didn't go on the Shark Tank? And I think that's a good place for us to talk after the tank.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's almost over here.
This is a great novelty one time, and then a parent says it's almost $6 every meal. I think that's where you may be having a little bit of resistance on the sales, and I wish you luck, and I really respect who you are, but I'm out.
Okay, thank you.
See, I saw this as a good gift item.
That's what a lot of people said through its evolution. That's exactly what a lot of people said.
I mean, this is great for like birthday parties. If you're going to do Easter, kind of all the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, I see it. It could be seasonal, and I see it as gift products.
Yeah.
You do too. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I mean, I think that was the general feedback.
Mark?
It's a tough
Nothing I can do to convince you.
Yeah, the hard part is, I think, is shelf presence.
See, I love that because you're like, oh my God, I just lost 4 sharks. And I'm about to lose the last shark, Mark Cuban. And like anything I could do to convince you, because too many people give up too quick.
My life did flash before my eyes at that point.
I bet you're like, oh my gosh, they're all out. And so many people just walk off the stage, Tomo, and they just give up and always say you're 3 feet from gold.
Yeah, I mean the Shark Tank producers that helped coach me, prep me for the tank, they said, your energy levels, when sharks drop out, your energy levels need to go up, not down. And they were right.
Yeah, that's not when you quit.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to know what you're looking for, or you've got to get attention very quickly.
Yeah.
This says nothing. This is pretty damn cool.
Thank you.
I think Crayola will get a lot more attention.
I agree.
I mean, the reality is what you do online is going to be far more important.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to make all your money.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to get online?
Well, the problem is, of course, is that I'm going to need funds to produce the product to sell online.
Yeah. I mean,
Mark, come on.
Keep fighting.
Is there any way you consider doing these as one-offs so that people can see them and try them? To Damon's point, right? It's hard to make an investment of the $6 or whatever it is they sell for at retail. If you have a little basket just full of different flavors, and each of these are $1.99, parents are going to pick them up.
Yeah, I'm open to doing anything. Absolutely. From day one, I knew that this was a really good idea. And whenever you show this stuff to a child, you're reassured of that.
All right. I'll offer you the $250K.
I don't believe it.
For 25%.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love this idea about putting it in a basket, like by the cash registers, where the parents are done hearing about the kids. You know, I need this. I want this. I want this. I want this. At the cash register, you're trying to shut them up. And I love that idea. It's like when you go to airport gift stores or anywhere, you see the basket of the Hot Wheel cars.
Yeah.
And I always buy a Hot Wheel car because my daughter loves Hot Wheels. She loves cars. I think she's going to be a car racer one day.
That's good.
But yeah, so I love that idea. Did you ever incorporate that?
No, because we were already in Walmart, and the real estate at the registers is very, very hard to get into and very hard to, it would have required us restructuring the whole business, because we would have had to decide to make that pivot and then do everything that pivot required of us, which is to say produce more than 3 flavors, so more than 3 formulas. How do you package them? How do you've got to suddenly put hang tags on them, and all of this is with a view to then pitching them to the buyer that handles that set inside Walmart or another store. It was a huge amount of legwork with no guarantee of success. And ultimately we didn't need to.
Okay, so you got a deal.
Yeah.
You asked for 17% for $250,000. You got 10. You got $200,000 for, I think it was 25%.
That was the offer he gave me.
Yep, and that's the offer you accepted.
Yep.
So let's talk about after the tank. Take us through your journey. And throughout the show, you talked about the producers being so helpful, being so informative, and that's really great to know, because we help our clients get ready to go on Shark Tank. Yeah. And I've had different experiences where they are involved and some where they're kind of hands off.
Yeah.
So that was good that they were involved. Anything you want to share there?
They were just amazing. I think Shark Tank obviously is a phenomenon, and it has maintained its aura through them being very, very good at their jobs. Everybody involved at Shark Tank is amazing at their jobs, and talking to them and dealing with them and just seeing how confident they are of their abilities. It's just their job. It's what they do every year. They go offline for a couple of months and then they come back on, and the process starts again, and it's just what they do, and they're very, very good at it. And as I said, I can't say enough good things about Maggie and Kelly, my 2 producers. They were fabulous.
So after the tank, so we talked a little bit earlier about, gosh, we're not doing the small tubes anymore. We're not doing this packaging anymore. We're not doing all this. If you would never went on Shark Tank, then what would have happened to your company? Where would it have ended up?
I would like to think it would still be moving, but I think it would have been harder. But I also think that, the big takeaways from Shark Tank, obviously I gained Mark as a partner, which is amazing. He is the world's best business partner, as I'm sure you can imagine.
I was going to ask that. You've told me that he is amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. His entire team are amazing. They are the best people in the world and the nicest people in the world as well, which is obviously a huge part of it.
That's wonderful to hear, because, you just don't know, right? You see their personalities, and sometimes look, it's a show. So they got to be mean sometimes. And sometimes I look at some of these characters, the sharks, and I go, my gosh, that Damon looks like he could be really mean. I got another gentleman I hosted on my podcast. He's like, no, he's the nicest guy on the planet. He just comes off that way.
What I learned working in the fashion industry, and I think it holds true in most industries, is that the closer to the top of the industry you get, surprisingly, the nicer the people are. And that's because in the fashion industry especially, you want to work with good people. And if you're good at your job, you want to surround yourself with good, decent people. Of course, they need to be very good at what they do, but you want to enjoy spending time with them. And I think, all of the sharks, I think, yes, it's a TV show, but they are very, very smart people, and they are very, very nice people, and I think I don't have any personal experience with the other four, but with Mark especially, he is a very, very good person. I think that comes across, though. I think you can tell, he
seems very compassionate.
He's very, very, very good at what he does, and what he's built is amazing. But from my personal experience, he is a decent man, and I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so you think you would have still been around, but might not have moved as quickly or made some of the big changes that you made without their insight, right?
Yeah,
their insight really helped you.
Yeah, I mean, there have been instances in the past where I've been given advice and I've chosen to ignore it. There have been instances in the past where I've read interviews with people and they've talked about pivoting their business, and I've sat there and thought, I would never do that. This is a really good idea. There's no way I would pivot my business. I know that I wanted something amazing here, and I'm not going to deviate from it, because I do think that if the right people see it, it will become a worldwide smash phenomenon. That isn't realistic. I think it kept me moving forward and kept me going as long as I kept going. But what was amazing last year, after the deal with Cuban closed, is that he and his team, them telling me to make changes or suggesting I make changes, is different, because I'm like, these people really, really, really know what they're doing, and they're talking to me. We are a team, and they're saying to me what they're all there to do, including Mark, is to turn my business into a growing, increasingly profitable business. And so they tell you how they think you should make that happen, and they're never wrong. They do the jobs they do because they're very, very good at them. And so they all, including Mark, made suggestions as to how we could change the business around. And then I started getting customer feedback as well. And moms who had bought the small ketchup, the ketchup in the small tube, saying, my kids love it. They love the branding. They love your approach. They love the whole thing about it. They love the fact that you're making these products for them to use, but the small tubes are too expensive. If you put ketchup in big tubes, we'll buy it. And taking on board the fact that food paint was a unique product that nobody had ever seen before. I sat down last summer with the confidence of having the support of Mark and his team, and thought, okay, everything I've learned over the last few years, I'm almost going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to make a product that everybody loves. We know children understand, and we know parents understand as much as children. The Noshi ethos is still making products for children to use, for children to eat, and making organic products, because it was only ever going to be organic. But let's make this, I made life as complicated as I possibly could for myself with food paint. I want to make life as simple as possible for myself with Noshi version 2. So I was happy to make the pivot, and my thinking was, let's do ketchup, and what other condiments do kids love? And
let's time out real quick, because there was a lot to unpack that you said there, and I'm trying to remember it all. But what I love is, as so many entrepreneurs get great advice, just like you said, but you don't always take it. You don't always listen to it, because a lot of entrepreneurs are married to their idea.
Yep.
They're married to the concept of their idea.
Yep.
And they don't want to listen to somebody else, because number one, they feel, well, gosh, I was wrong about this. Instead of saying, oh my gosh, thank God I got their perspective, that I can now start to pivot and transform my company, because I'm not going to waste more time, energy, and money going down this path. So you weren't married to your idea. And what you just said is, doing the small tubes and all cost you all this discomfort.
Yeah.
And now you're listening to the advice of the experts, and you're making things more comfortable for everybody else, which makes things more comfortable for you. There's just a lot of valuable nuggets right there that I want.
I mean, I had to buy all of my own machinery. I bought and built my own production line because nobody put food in tubes before me. There were no co-packers in the USA that put food in tubes.
But yeah, let's talk about how you changed, because I definitely want to talk about you buying your own machinery. And how'd you go from a food paint company to what are you now?
I sat down and I thought, as I've just said, I thought, how do we do this differently? The margins were awful with food paint and with the small tube ketchup. The process of making them was almost impossible. It was killing me. It was just too complicated. So I thought, right, we are going to find a co-packer that does put food in tubes, so we can use their machinery and their labor, and their machinery is going to be much better than mine because it's going to be newer than mine. Where is that co-packer? And I found one because I'd been speaking to them for 3 or 4 years, and they're in Ohio. And so I spoke to them and I said, can we do this project together? And they said yes. Then I thought, okay, with food paint, we were buying all of the ingredients separately, bringing them on site, and we were blending them and then putting them in tubes. I want to find people who can make these sauces, these savory sauces for me, ketchup and the other two that we're making, off-site, and they can ship it to me ready blended. But I also want to find people who make it as close to my co-packer as possible to keep the freight costs to an absolute minimum. And so I did, and I found people within 2 hours drive of my co-packer who were prepared to custom formulate these sauces, these organic sauces for me, and pre-blend and blend them in their facility and then ship them to my facility.
And they all go in a tube, right?
Yeah, they all go into tubes. Yeah, this is it's all these three sauces, these two, and the chicken sauce.
So what do we have now? We have the ketchup, the chicken sauce, and what's the one in the middle?
That's ranch. So the ketchup is launching in July. The chicken sauce is launching in the fall of this year, and the ranch is probably going to launch early next year. But that's not to say we can't launch all three of them sooner. I'm thinking, depending on how conversations go with retailers that we're having, I'm very open to the idea of launching all three of them sooner than that.
So we're not doing food painting anymore, like you had the painting on the waffles and pancakes.
No.
We're not doing that. So now we're just selling in a bottle, a kid-friendly bottle.
Like in a tube, in a tube.
So how does that still make it fun and controlling for the kids, where they're going to enjoy eating and not play the no game?
Well, it's designed for them, as you can see. If you show this to a kid, they know that is for them. This is not mom and dad's ketchup. This is the kids' ketchup, and kids respond to that. All I can do is ask you to take my word on that. I spent a weekend photographing various different kids using this, and none of them had seen it before. And as soon as I showed it to all of them, they could not wait to get their hands on it. They immediately understood that it was for them. And it's ketchup. They all love ketchup. And this is the other really big key piece of very, very pertinent information. The reason kids love condiments, which we all know how much kids love condiments. The reason they love condiments so much is it's the only time during the meal that they are given any responsibility. They're told, put the ketchup on your fries, or they know that they can put the ketchup on the side of their plate or the ketchup on their fries. That's why they love condiments so much. Yes, of course, ketchup tastes amazing, but the reason kids get excited by condiments is because they are allowed to do it themselves.
So to summarize that, I call it my approach with my clients. Ask yourself the three basic questions. What business are you in? You were in the food painting business.
I was. I'm not anymore.
That's right, but we're going to go backwards. So you were in a food painting business just this one time, and then we're going back forward. But you were in the food painting business. What was your superpower?
Knowing that kids liked these products and knowing the approach was the right approach, knowing that children needed and wanted to be given more responsibility at mealtimes, and the way to give that to them was by designing food products that they could use themselves.
So we're going to sum that up and say, how children eat and what will help them be in control and not throw a temper tantrum at dinner. And then you transition into the condiment business, right? Okay, so like Amazon did that back in the 90s. They asked themselves, what business are we in? What business were they in? They were in a book distributor business. What's their superpower? Shipping, fulfillment. What business did they say we have to be in? We have to be in a fulfillment business for products all around the world. And that's what you did. And that's what I encourage all entrepreneurs to do, because you have to pivot. If you're married to your idea and people don't see validity in that idea, then you're going to go out of business. So I think you're a great example of business entrepreneurship.
I've been doing this for nearly 10 years and it's a lot of it's down to tenacity, but a lot of it is down to me being increasingly more and more open-minded as to how we grow the business and keep it moving forwards.
So when did you make that shift? What year was that shift?
Last summer. You made that
shift last summer. How have you been keeping your boat afloat, your financial boat afloat, when you weren't in all those stores anymore? And then I heard you're not at Walmart. How did you keep your financial boat afloat while you're making that huge transition?
Determination, tenacity. And I've said to all of my investors, including Cuban, I'm very, very proud of what I did with the business up until the point I got on Shark Tank. I'm really, really proud of the fact that I had an idea and I had I had the confidence to run with it. And I then ran the business economically and efficiently for years, even in the face of very, very low sales, because I wanted to keep it moving forward. And it's really just a slightly bigger version of that. It's just, I know this is a good idea. I know what we need to do and how we need to get there. And I know it's going to take this long. So I'm going to budget accordingly. And I did. And we are about to launch. And I'm really pleased with that. It is about time too.
So you were able to run a tight ship, budget your money, and be able to keep the boat afloat. And I mean, that's amazing.
It was extremely tough, but I was never going to give up.
And that's what you have to be. And here's the bottom line. What entrepreneurs start with, most 9 times out of 10, is not what they end up with. And if you go to market doing business the same way you've always done it, then you're going to become antiquated. Because the thing that's always consistent in business is change. It's innovation. And the reason why so many businesses go out of business is lack of aim. Aim is always innovate and market, always innovate and market. And you're going to continue to innovate and you're going to continue to market. So that was great that you were able to do that, because so many entrepreneurs are stuck in their ways. They don't want to listen. They don't want to make any revisions. They don't want to pivot. And then I'm dying. You're either growing or dying. There's no in between.
Yeah. I mean, when I first started filling tubes, we were working out of an organic co-packer in New Jersey. And I was on my own. I was solo. There would be 2 guys over there making kimchi and 2 young women over there filling olive oil in bottles, and somebody else putting, chocolate coated nuts into bags over here. And they were all having so much fun. That's what struck me. They would be laughing and having fun, and they were excited. We're building a brand, and I felt very, very lonely. But what I've got in place of that partner or that partner, I've got Mark Cuban standing at my shoulder. And what the difference between that and what I've got is that when I bounce an idea off him, he'll tell me what I need to hear, even if it's not what I want to hear. Whereas I think partners, there are many, many benefits to having launch partners and business partners in that context. But there is a danger of you convincing each other that you've reinvented the wheel. And I think it's amazingly helpful for me to have a partner who will say, no, don't do that. No, we're not doing that. Why are you thinking that? That's not the way to be doing this. But at the same time, if I take a good idea or good progress report to him, he's he's amazingly supportive. He's an amazing partner to have.
I always say it's hard to read the label from the inside of the bottle. Outsider's perspective to read the warning signs that keep you out of the danger zones. I just talked to a really huge role leader in AI, and he took my entire vision and kind of turned it upside down. And said, no, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you needed to go in this direction, do that. That is invaluable. And so many people take offense to that, and they're married to their idea, and they can't really hear what somebody else is saying. So you got to really detach yourself from your product. You got to detach yourself for what that you think to be true, because you don't know what you don't know. And unless you've been in that industry for years and years and years and years, and even if you have, there's always somebody out there that knows more than you do. And you always should align yourself with the greatest of the great. So what's next for Noshi? And what does Noshi stand for?
I've got no idea. When I was designing...
I knew no. I'm like, no. So no has to be part of it.
No, it's not. When I first was introduced to Kirsty, the aforementioned packaging designer, and we had our first call, she said, what sort of designs do you like? And I'd always loved Japanese food packaging. And so I did a lot of Googling of Japanese food packaging. And I think the word Noshi must have just evolved from me looking at lots of packaging that said things like Toshi and Goshi and Boshi on it. It was just a made up word. But of course, one of the friends of mine who was helping me with the business at the beginning is Jewish, and she made the connection between Noshi and Nosh, the Yiddish for to eat. So it was the right name. And it looks great as well. It just looks visually, it looks brilliant.
It's short, which is great. All right. So what's next for Noshi? We
launch the ketchup next month on Amazon. We launch the chicken sauce as soon as possible after that, and the ranch as soon as possible after that. We're talking to retailers. I'm really excited with the Amazon model. I think the margins we've managed to get are in stark contrast to the ones we had with food paint that were discussed on Shark Tank. We've got a bunch of influencers lined up and committed to posting content of our ketchup around the time of the launch to their combined 6 million followers. I stole that idea from
6 million followers. Wow. You stole that idea from who?
From an amazing woman called Helen, who founded a keto cereal brand called Schoolyard Snacks. And there are interviews with her online, and she talks about how she built her business from the ground up. And it was all, the first bunch of sales were generated by her reaching out to hundreds of micro influencers and asking them to post content in exchange for free content. And they did. And it generated $100,000 of sales straight out of the gate. And that's how she got her business up and running.
Are you going to sell on your own website too?
Not initially, no. Everything's going to be driven straight to Amazon.
Okay. Can I give you some advice on that?
Yeah.
Be careful. You don't want everything in one bucket.
It won't be one bucket for long. It'll be one bucket long enough to get the product out there, make a big splash with it, make it very, very easy for as many people as possible to get their hands on it quickly and to get some revenue coming through.
Yeah, because this happens all the time where somebody's got their business, like we were working with a makeup manufacturer, and they were everything in Costco. And that was their only one distributor was Costco. COVID happened. People were spending money on makeup. They kicked them out. They had no other platform. So you want to make sure, like I always say, you want 4 to 7 ways you get paid, and you want 4 to 7 platforms on how you sell your products and services. Yeah,
I mean, when we were only selling in Walmart, I used to think that to myself regularly, and it was terrifying. But, I think this time it's a little bit different because obviously Amazon, if COVID happened again, anybody can buy anything from Amazon in a heartbeat. I think
you're going to be in Whole Foods too?
We're going to get there.
Okay, Whole Foods, Walmart, chains, retail chains coming back.
Yeah,
I suggest you sell on your own website, and then of course Amazon. But you want very diversified platforms.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Wonderful. Well, you've been a wonderful guest. Great knowledge. I hope your anxiety lessened a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the first time I've watched it since it aired, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, everybody says I was quite good, and it wasn't.
That's the first time you watched it since you've been on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, you're an incredible man with an incredible story, obviously incredible surviving wife. It's ironic that you happen to have COVID, but you did a great job today and dropped so many golden nuggets. What do you have to say? Any last minute thoughts to our listeners?
I think entrepreneurship is a wild, wild ride. And if you've got the nerve to do it, it is the most exhilarating journey you will ever go on. It is absolutely terrifying. But every problem that you're presented with, if you have the tenacity and the willpower, you can overcome anything that's put in front of you. Being a food and beverage CPG brand founder / brand owner is one of the hardest jobs in the world, I think. And I'm very, very proud of myself for having kept this train on the tracks for nearly 10 years, and that something amazing is probably about to happen. Take Shark Tank and everything out of the way. This will, your success as a founder will all come from you. It is all down to you. If you have the balls to get there, you'll get there.
Well said. Well said. And I love that. It is a wild ride. So saddle up, entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. It is a wild ride, but you've hung in there, stuck in there, and I can't wait to see what's up for you next. And thank you so much for dropping all these wonderful words of wisdom and sharing your experience, not just your Shark Tank journey, but your personal journey as well, which is even more incredible than Shark Tank, in my opinion. So all of our listeners, I know this was a huge episode. Make sure that you listen to it a few times, because it's like drinking from a water hose. There's so much different golden nuggets in there that you want to capture. Make sure you share this with all of your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the Exit Rich podcast. And if you're interested in getting on a Shark Tank episode, we specialize in helping our guests our clients know the numbers. And you did a great job knowing the numbers, Tomo. That's where most people get hung up, is they don't know the numbers. Yeah, and you were realistic on your evaluation. Nobody beat you up on evaluation.
You've got to be realistic with the numbers, and you've got to know your numbers. Absolutely. It's very important.
You got to know your numbers. All right. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you.
To all my listeners.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Exit Rich podcast. Don't forget to check out Michelle Seiler Tucker's Build to Sell Blueprint books and Exit Rich, along with more blogs, videos, and resources at exitrichpodcast.com. Be sure to connect with Michelle on Facebook or LinkedIn, and stay tuned for her next episode by subscribing in your favorite podcast player.